Hey, fabulous people, it's Linny Wines, and guess what I just saw? I just saw Avengers Infinity Wars, and it was something. You should be proud of me, I actually took notes this time. I'm planned what I'm saying as opposed to just talking like I am now. Anyway, there will be spoilers in this, just because I'm not sure how to talk about how I felt about certain things without spoiling a few scenes. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch this video yet. Go watch the movie and then watch this video. Or if you don't care about spoilers, whatever order you want. But spoilers! I warned you. Anyway, I'm going to break this down into 3 basic parts and then some more parts from there, so this is probably going to be kind of a long video. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the things that I wanted to see, then I'm going to talk about what I actually saw, and then I'm going to talk about what I think's going to happen in the next movie. Or at least eventually. Anyway, the 3 things that I really wanted was some kind of interaction with the kids. I mean, Spider-Man, Shuri, and Baby Groot. I wanted to see something with the kids interacting and doing something, anything in the plotline. Even if it was just Peter and Shuri working on something scientific to help aid in the cause while Groot snarked in the background. I would have been fine with that. I just wanted the kids to get together and to do something. I'm sad. Then the other thing that I wanted was for Gamora and Nebula to have closure in regards to their relationship with Thanos. These two have been put through so much, and it's been wonderful to see their relationship evolve, to see them go from people who hated each other to finding a mutual understanding of where all of this anger was coming from, why they felt this way, and what the root cause of it was. And to actually kind of feel like sisters. Didn't nearly feel as much like siblings as, say, Shuri and T'Challa, but they felt like they belonged with each other, like they were some kind of family. Then the final thing that I wanted was just this random bit of me wanting a thing because it was cute. I wanted there to be some kind of big fight scene going on, and for Star-Lord to do something stupid, and Gamora to yell, "Peter!" And for Spider-Man to stop in confusion, like, what did I do? And she, not you, sweetie. That's what I wanted. I wanted one of those random moments of Gamora being soft and gentle. We don't get a whole lot of it, but we've seen it, especially with Little Groot, we've seen it, and I thought it would have been nice to expand her maternal side onto some of the other kids. We did not get those things. I wanted those things. We did not get those things. I know I'm not the only one who wanted those things. I can't be the only person on the planet who planner? I can't be the only person on the planet who has these thoughts, but they did not occur in the film. A little bit of closure, but we'll talk about that later. Alright, so my overall feelings for how the movie went down, this is where the big spoilers start happening, guys. If you've stuck around this far, this is where the big spoilers start happening. The overall feeling for the film was it felt like they were trying to hit hard. Like with the very opening scene starting with a mass murder. They were trying really hard to make it feel like the stakes are really high this time. This time, it's serious. And they took it a step further by showing us the death of Heimdall, which perpetually aggravates me. Stop killing off your characters of color. Stop it. It's not interesting towards the industry as a whole. And besides which, Idris Elba is a fantastic actor, and I'm gonna be forever aggravated if I don't get to see him in more movies being an amazing Norse god. I was born for it. Anyway, from the very opening, they're making it clear that this is going to be a dark, gritty, hard movie. Which, fine, if that's the route you want to take. Meh, I'm not super into it. But I don't know, it just didn't feel quite right to me. Like, I know that they were going for something heavy, and they can certainly pull off heavy. The Winter Soldier was a pretty heavy movie, but it made sense because it was a Captain America movie. They've got the political drama subplot going on in Captain America movies. It made sense. For it to happen in an Avengers movie, with the Avengers movies have always been very heavy action. It's like, yes, there's these fantastical things going on with these fantastical heroes, but the subplot has always been about interpersonal relationships and action. Like the first Avengers movie, obviously the big thing was Loki's going to steal the Tesseract and use it to take over the world. Which already feels kind of cartoony. I love this movie, but that part definitely seems kind of cartoony. And it did focus very strongly on relationships. The team was being built, it's about how they were going to work together. Yes. And then in Avengers Age of Ultron, which is definitely my least favorite MCU movie, but it still fit the criteria of being about interpersonal relationships, about Wanda's relationship with her brother, about the Vision's relationship with the people who created him, including Ultron, about Tony's relationship with the people he loved and cared about, and that while trying to make this thing that's meant to protect all of them, he accidentally created their biggest threat, even though last time the threat was global, and this time it's mostly just targeting you. So this movie felt a little disjointed in regards to being an Avengers-specific movie. I mean, I would have loved it if they had just titled it Infinity Wars and not Avengers Infinity Wars. You can get away with that, I think. I think they can get away with that. Because they did Captain America Civil War, and yet they included the majority of the cast. Even though it was a Captain America movie with a very strong political drama undertone. They can do it. It's just a matter of whether or not they're willing to. Anyway, I'm going to go into a breakdown of my initial thoughts of the movies. So, like I said a minute ago, in the opening scene, we have Thanos attacking Loki and Thor on their ship. Lots of death. Weird guy. Tony later on called him Squidward, and I can't remember his actual name, so I'm probably going to call him Squidward for the rest of the video. Squidward makes a comment about how you've all been blessed to die at the great hands of Thanos. He does a lot of that. It's annoying, but it doesn't feel as heavy as they seem to want it to feel. I know that they're going for some creepy cult of Thanos thing, but it doesn't quite make it for me. Anyway, Loki dies in an attempt to kill Thanos, because of course they're not going to kill Thanos that soon. And it's a really dramatic scene with Thor being bound in iron, trying to save his brother as his brother lies his way to get within stabbing distance of Thanos. But the entire time Thanos was choking Loki out, I was like, okay, now it's going to disappear, and it's going to have been just one of Loki's tricks. But it wasn't, and it made no sense that it wasn't. It's like they completely forgot who this character was for the purposes of having this big character death right in the opening. It didn't make sense within the lore of the films. It didn't make sense with much of anything. Loki would never have gotten that close to Thanos without having an exit strategy. Loki's not that dumb. So, that's my first thought. After we see Thanos get control of the Tesseract, he then sends people to Earth to try to take the Time Stone from Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, who's been warned about Thanos coming for the Time Stone, via Bruce Banner, because with his last bit of energy, Heimdall was able to send Banner back to Earth, depositing him right into the lap of Doctor Strange. And so we spend a little bit more time in New York with them contacting Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange trying to figure out what to do with things. And then they get a hold of Tony so that Tony can figure out what's going on. And we get a really cute scene with Pepper and Tony where they're talking about moving their life forward, and Tony wants to have kids, and it's really, really cute. And so then Doctor Strange bursts in, and Tony is immediately completely shrugging him off. And then Bruce steps out and makes a statement of, no, we need your help. We need your help. And we get an adorable moment of Tony and Pepper both being concerned for Bruce. It's really sweet because we know that Bruce did spend some time living with Tony, so obviously he's going to have interacted with Pepper somewhat, so it was nice to see her genuinely concerned about one of Tony's friends. I wish we had had more Pepper in this movie. I understand that it doesn't always make a lot of sense to put Pepper in the movie because they're heavily action-based and Pepper's not a fighter. She's capable of fighting, as we've seen in, say, the very first Iron Man movie where she was the one putting her life on the line to get rid of Stain. We've seen that she's got the moral center and the energy for it, and she's certainly got the physicality, as we saw in the end of Iron Man 3, but she doesn't want to be in the fight. Fighting is not her thing. I'm great with that, I just wish there was more of her. Her character type doesn't lend itself very well to being on screen in an action movie. Speaking of characters who don't exactly lend themselves to being in an action movie, Ned. Everyone remember Peter's friend Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming? Ned was the real MVP of this movie. He was on for just a few minutes and he was definitely my favorite part. It's something that they spoiled in the trailers where Peter notices, oh, there's a giant spaceship in the middle of New York. I should probably do something. And he nudges his buddy Ned like, I need to distract him. Ned's face lights up. We're all gonna die! There's a spaceship! It was pretty great. I love Ned. Ned's another one that I just need more screen time. I just want to get all of the characters who are definitely sitting at home trying to figure out ways to help at home. Like, give me Betty Ross, Pepper Potts, and Ned, and put them in a room together, and I want to get a side movie or just like a mini film of those three and any others you can think of. Just the sidekicks who don't get enough time to shine. Send them in case anyone's wondering what I'm doing with my hands. My cat is here. That's what I'm doing with my hands. Anyway. Speaking of the quote-unquote sidekicks, especially the teenage sidekicks, can we talk about how beautiful Shuri is? I mean beautiful in an overall aspect. She is obviously aesthetically gorgeous, but she's also so smart and so compassionate and so ready to just throw down. Like, we get beautiful scenes with her proving I am smarter than Bruce Banner and he's going to have to respect that. It was great. I need more. I need more Shuri putting grown-ass men in their place. Because she can do it and she deserves it. And I'm not going to jump that far ahead, but she is going to be placed in a position where she can definitely do that as much as she wants very soon. So, lots of miscellaneous shenanigans go on with the Guardians of the Galaxy are running around trying to get to the Infinity Stones before Thanos can. They've run into Thor. There's lots of character clashes happening. And in the process, Thanos kidnaps Gamora. Why does he kidnap Gamora? Because Gamora is his favorite child. He wants her to be with him as he accomplishes his dreams. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings in regards to what's going on between Gamora and Thanos. Like, we get this flashback of Gamora as a small child on the day that her planet was half eradicated, and see how desperately her mother had been trying to protect her. And then from that, see how violently a tiny child, maybe 5 years old, was struggling to fight off these invaders so that she could get to her mother and protect her mother. And Thanos sees this. Thanos notices the strength and the fight within Gamora, and specifically chooses her to be spared. And then from that, chooses her to become his weapon. She was raised, and we know from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that she and Nebula were both raised being put into trial after trial after trial to show which one of them is better. And we've seen from this clip that Gamora has been showing Thanos exactly what he wanted to see ever since she was a tiny little girl. But we get more than that. We find out through a conversation between Gamora and Thanos that Gamora hasn't always agreed with him and has made it clear to him time and time again that she hated what they would go through, and she hated being with him, and she hated belonging to him. And he expresses some kind of sadness in that his favorite child would disapprove of him so much and would fight him so hard when all he wanted was for her to take his place someday. And I don't like it. I don't like it. There's another scene where Thanos is legitimately torturing Nebula, his other daughter, in front of Gamora to force Gamora to reveal the location of the Soul Gem. He is actually torturing one of his children in front of the other in an attempt to force her to tell him where this object is. That is how little Thanos cares about his children. He is fully willing to use them as tools against each other. And Gamora crumbles. She can't do it. She loves her sister. She can't watch her sister be literally torn apart over the location of a stone. And so Thanos takes her with him to the stone's planet, where we meet Red Skull for no reason that I can possibly imagine. Red Skull is in charge of guarding the Soul Gem? I don't... Marvel. Why are you bringing your Crimson Nazi in for this? Don't bite me. She's also angry about this. There is no need to bring in the Crimson Nazi. You could have had literally any other side villain. You could have... I don't know. It felt weird and out of place, and I genuinely don't understand. You could have just left him shrouded in his creepy Grim Reaper veil, and it would have been fine. We didn't need to see the red face. We didn't need to see the Red Skull. That didn't need to be the Red Skull. I didn't like it. I think it would have been very poetic if they had had Lady Death be the guard of the Soul Gem. Please stop trying to bite me. It would have been really great if Lady Death had been the one guarding that, given Thanos' relationship to him and to her in the comics. It probably would have been really confusing, but I don't know. It just seemed really weird to have the Red Skull there. Anyway, the Gamora and Thanos arc accumulates, and them finding out that in order to get the Soul Gem, you have to give up what you love the most. And Gamora starts laughing because she doesn't think that there's anything in the entire universe that Thanos loves. She's convinced that there is nothing, and it is just beyond his grasp. And Thanos sheds a single tear, And I don't really understand why they thought that was... This makes me mad. This makes me very, very mad. I would have loved... This is going to sound so bad. He kills Gamora. He kills Gamora to get the stone. I would have loved for him to have killed Gamora and not gotten the stone as a result. Because this is showing, oh, he really did truly love her. Never mind the lifetime of abuse and actually torturing her sister in front of her in order to emotionally manipulate her. Never mind that he has done everything in his power to ruin this woman. This incredibly kind, compassionate, strong, intelligent woman. He has gone out of his way to break her down and try to shove the pieces back together into something that vaguely resembles himself. But it's okay because he's really her father inside and he absolutely loves her. No, it's bullshit, and I hated that part. I hated that part with every fiber of every thing inside myself. That was stupid. That was a terrible, terrible choice, and I am mad about it, and I will probably always be mad about it. Okay. I am calm. After this, we go into some of the more big action sequences. Things like the big fight in Wakanda, which I'm glad that they set it in Wakanda because literally nowhere on Earth could have possibly managed to stand up to that onslaught. Wakanda is the only place with the strength and the integrity and the technology to do so. Good on you for recognizing that, Marvel. Also, it would give you a good chance, good option to, like, tie into your most successful, fantastic Black Panther movie. That was beautiful. Please stop biting me. Why do you do that? I don't have to pet you. Anyway. This shows that I don't know how to edit because there's just going to be all these moments of me asking my cat not to bite me. Speaking of cats, the big fight near the end takes place primarily in Wakanda. And I got super pumped when they had the big panorama coming in and we see the giant panther statue. It was beautiful. It's always beautiful going into Wakanda. But there's only really two things from the big fight scenes. I say scenes because there's two big fights going on at once. Isn't that so much drama? Hardcore. Two big things from the fight scenes that I want to focus on are, number one, we did get Bucky and Rocket interacting. That was pretty great. It was pretty great to see Bucky, the guy with the robot arm, interacting with Rocket, the guy who steals robot prosthetics just because it's his thing. He just does that. We get a moment where they're surrounded on all sides, so Bucky picks Rocket up and they spin around and Bucky's shooting with one arm and Rocket's shooting at the end of his other arm, and they have a moment of clear and Rocket asks, "How much for the gun?" "Not for sale." "How much for the arm?" And Bucky just looks at him and walks away, and we get a beautiful moment from Rocket where he chuckles and states that he's gonna get that arm. He's not gonna get that arm, though. Anyway, then we go back to the other big fight scene, which is between Thanos and Stark and Doctor Strange and the majority of the others of the Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man. And they are this close to prying that damn gauntlet off of Thanos' hand. They have almost got it. And then Nebula and Mantis both come to the realization that the reason Thanos was able to get the Soul Gem was by sacrificing Gamora. And Star-Lord loses his shit. He has his complete breakdown, and he's not able to listen to what anyone is saying, and he just starts pounding into Thanos' face, and it's a perfectly understandable emotional response to finding out that the person that he loves is dead. But you're screwing over the entire universe, Star-Lord! Peter Quill! what the hell? You can't do that. But because he starts wailing on Thanos, Mantis loses her grip on him, which means that she's no longer able to control him. Thank you for that, cat butt. This movie definitely needs a cat butt. But because Star-Lord loses control of his emotions and starts physically assaulting Thanos, Mantis loses her grip on his head, and he's able to break free of her control, and Spider-Man is literally pulling the gauntlet away. We see it leaving his hand, but he just catches it with his fingertips at the end and shoves it back, and it gets the damn glove back on, and it's all your fault, Peter Quill. It is all Star-Lord's fault. All of it, 100% Star-Lord's fault. God. Then he's been doing all of this in an effort to get the Time Stone from Doctor Strange, which Doctor Strange stated earlier in the movie that he can't part with because he made a sacred vow to protect it with his life. And then near the end of the big fight, Tony has become impaled and is dying. And Thanos is about to kill him. And then, for literally no reason at all, Doctor Strange just gives up the stone in exchange for Tony's life. It makes no sense. Like, what Star-Lord did was wrong. Definitely wrong. You're dooming half the galaxy. But it's understandable because it's in a fit of emotions. Doctor Strange has made it clear repeatedly throughout the film that he does not care for Tony, he does not care for Tony's life, he does not care for anything more than he cares for his sacred duty to protect the Time Gem. And he just at the last minute changes his mind. I don't know why, at the last minute he changes his mind and hands the stone over. God, that was stupid. Unless it has something to do with the fact that earlier in the movie he had a moment where he looked forward through all of the possible endings for how this fight could go down. He looked through literally millions of possible outcomes and only saw one outcome where they came on top. The only thing I can think of is that the only universe where they came on top was the universe where Thanos had the Time Stone. That's the only thing that makes sense in regards to why Strange would give up the Time Stone. But if that were the case, why did you fight in the first place? It makes no sense, and it irritates the hell out of me. God. Why? Character consistency. And then, because Thanos has the majority of the gems at this point, he goes to Earth to get the last gem out of Vision's head. Shuri has just had Vision stolen out of her office where she was this close to having the stone removed so they could destroy it without hurting Vision. They were this close, and they ran out of time. And Vision winds up in this fight in the woods, and Wanda does an amazing feat of self-sacrifice, and that she loses again the person in the world who is most important to her, and she destroys the stone. Which I need to take a moment to focus on Wanda in regards to her powers and how they apply in the MCU. That was really painful. Please stop biting me. In regards to how Wanda's powers apply in the MCU, she certainly doesn't seem to be as powerful as she is in the comics, but no one's ever as powerful as they are in the comics. Case in point, Thanos was somehow able to physically restrain Hulk in the first 20 minutes. Ha! But Wanda has the power to destroy an Infinity Stone. Probably has the power to destroy all the Infinity Stones. Which is why it's important that Wanda dies in this movie. Because Thanos does manage to rip the gem out of Vision, even though she destroyed it, because he has the time gem, so he just turns time back a little bit to just before she destroyed it, and takes it from him then. Because time. And Wanda is completely bereft, and Thor almost kills Thanos, but he aimed for his chest instead of his head, so Thanos is able to snap his fingers and undo half the universe. I really need to learn to edit. So yeah, in regards to undoing the universe, a lot of characters that we have grown to love or not are dying. Like, there's one horrible image where T'Challa goes to help Okoye get up and makes a statement of, "This is not a good place to die," and then crumbles to dust. He's just gone. And there's a scene where War Machine, James Rhodes, is looking for Sam, looking for where Sam has crashed down. And Sam crumbles into dust when Rhodey's almost to him. And then the first scene I was watching, and I was like, oh, okay, this is an interesting take, because I was more distracted by the visual effect that they'd used to really feel it emotionally. And then we get Bucky. And Bucky looks up at Steve and says his name and starts to come towards him and falls apart. And I don't know how Marvel can somehow agree to have Steve not just be completely bawling in that moment. This is the man who, last time he died, Steve barely waited a week before going on a suicide mission. There is no way in hell Steve is going to rest after this. And then we lose Groot. And Rocket's expression. There was a time earlier in the movie where Rocket made the statement that he could stand to lose a lot. And he really has. Because Gamora was killed. Rocket's not aware, but Gamora was killed. And then he saw Groot die. And then on a complete another planet, he loses his other friends too. Mantis goes away, and Drax, and even Star-Lord, whose fault this all really is. And while on that planet, we get this completely bereft moment where Peter goes to Tony and says he feels funny and holds on to him real tight and says that he doesn't want to go, that he doesn't want to go. And then he apologizes. And Tony watches him crumble. I didn't feel that emotional watching it, but describing it feels worse somehow. Seeing Peter die actually hurt. And that was the point in the film where I was like, oh, okay, ow. Ow. And then we go to Thanos on some lush green island somewhere, just looking out at it. And that's the end of the movie. Except for the end credit scene. In the end credit scene, we got an interesting moment where Fury and Agent Hill were in a car and they were trying to figure out what was going on, and the vehicle in front of them suddenly crashes, so they get out to check if the people in the other car are okay, and there's no one there. And then Agent Hill crumbles, and then Fury pulls out some communication thing and presses a button. And then he starts to crumble, and he almost says an F word. He almost says a naughty word, but he crumbles just beforehand. And then they zoom in on the communications device, and we see the symbol for Captain Marvel. So there's our Captain Marvel tie-in. Which leads to my predictions for what's going to happen in the next movie, regarding the next Infinity Wars movie. I think that there's going to be some kind of Captain Marvel tie-in, maybe divulging a little bit more into what's going on with the Kree universe. Maybe we'll see Marvel. Less likely, maybe we'll see Novar. There's interesting Kree options. But honestly, I think that the big end for what will happen to conclude all of this on a happy note, because this is a franchise owned by Disney, there will be a happy ending. I think that Star-Lord is going to get a hold of the gauntlets somehow. Because Star-Lord is part celestial or part god, he should be able to at least somewhat handle the power. And since this is all his fault, it would make sense for him to have to be the one to undo everything, even if it literally kills him. In fact, I'm on board with it literally killing him. He kind of screwed everything up. But I think in the end, Star-Lord will be wearing the gauntlet, and he'll undo, if not everything, then at least most things, and the majority of our favorites will be back. Another little side note that I didn't think about until after the movie. We saw T'Challa die. So this means in the next movie, the leader of Wakanda will be Shuri. Shuri is going to be Queen of Wakanda. Probably also the Black Panther. So we'll get to see Shuri kicking ass and taking names. Or as Mantis would say, taking ass and kicking names. Anyway, I don't want to let you think that this movie was all bummer. Or that it was bad. It wasn't. It just really left a lot to be desired for me. It felt like they were trying too hard. It felt like they weren't really as invested as they should be. Maybe they should have waited and just had one Infinity Wars movie instead of splitting it up into two. I don't care if it's 4 hours. I will sit and I will watch all of it. I will. Look at me. Look at me. I'll do it. Anyway, that was my overall reaction to the Infinity Wars. And I'm looking forward to having an actual conclusion as opposed to the soft ending they had to leave it at in order to have a part 2. Anyway, if you guys have any suggestions for what movie I go see next, or anything else you'd like to hear me review, or anything else you'd be interested in seeing from me, I'd really like to know. I would love to hear from you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend this with me, and I'm glad that you sat through all of my ramblings. I love you all. Stay fabulous.